The front office has just pulled the trigger on yet another defensive line signing, bringing former Titans and Vikings defensive tackle James Lynch into the fold to battle it out in the trenches. Are we finally building the elite depth required to survive a grueling season, or is this just another minor move that leaves us asking for more? We are going to break down every single angle of this signing, what it means for the rotation, and how it completely tips the front office's hand for the upcoming draft. If you want to stay ahead of the pack with the most passionate coverage of our favorite team, please smash that like button, share this video, and subscribe right now. We have to give a massive shout out to Brad Biggs for being all over this scoop before the national insiders even had a clue, though Ian Rappaport quickly jumped in to confirm this is a one-year deal. My instant reaction to this news is that we are looking at pure depth, intense competition, and a brutal fight for a final roster spot in training camp. We are talking about a durable player who appeared in all 17 games last year. He did suffer the heartbreak of missing one full season earlier in his career, but when this guy is healthy, he is strapping up his cleats and playing the entire year. Let's take a trip down memory lane. Lynch played his college football for the Baylor Bears. Coming out of the draft, the scouting community viewed him as a classic tweener. He did not have the freakish athleticism to be a dominant edge rusher, and there were questions about his mass as an interior defensive tackle. The Minnesota Vikings drafted him in the 4th round, where he stayed through the 2023 season. That campaign was an absolute nightmare, as he missed the entire year after tearing his ACL in training camp. Over the last 2 years, he found a home on the Tennessee Titans roster, proving he could stay healthy. Looking at his career statistics, you see the definition of classic backup numbers. He is not a massive needle mover. What you are getting in James Lynch is pure depth and an absolute high motor, high effort grinder. If you look at his Pro Football Focus grades from last year, they were sitting just a little below average. In fact, his year-by-year grades mostly hover right around the 50s and 60s. So, we are talking about an average football player, a career backup, and a classic 4th defensive tackle presence. Are we really going to trust a rotation of unproven cast-offs to protect the interior of this defense without bringing in some fierce veteran competition? James Lynch actually checks a ton of the specific boxes that defensive coordinator Dennis Allen absolutely covets in a defensive tackle. From a physical standpoint, his arm length simply does not check out for an edge rusher, so there is zero doubt he is playing strictly as a defensive tackle in this scheme. You throw him into the defensive line meeting room, and suddenly you have a real battle brewing. The front office already brought in Kentavious Street. They also handed significant money to Neville Gallimore, guaranteeing him a roster spot. Now you add James Lynch to the fold. I think the most realistic scenario playing out is a massive training camp showdown between Kentavious Street and James Lynch, which will also depend heavily on the upcoming draft. It is going to be a pure may the best man win situation for that final spot. If both of those guys end up making the final roster, it probably means our overall defensive tackle group just is not that great. It would indicate the front office failed to add a dominant force who can step up or push our established starters like Jervin Dexter and Grady Jarrett to the absolute limit. I am not blown away by this signing, but it is nothing to lose sleep over. This is a one-year flyer with microscopic guaranteed money, carrying almost zero financial risk. Let me ask you the official question of the day. What is the biggest, most glaring need left on this roster right now? Drop your answers in the comments section below because I want to see where everyone's head is at. While you type out your thoughts, let us look at the absolute whirlwind of roster moves this front office has orchestrated a week and a half into free agency. We saw the massive splash when Garrett Bradbury was acquired via trade to be the starting center. We saw the return of Daniel Hardy and Marco Jackson, and it is going to be fascinating to see if Jackson's defensive responsibilities are elevated. We already talked about Neville Gallimore. Then you have the secondary and linebacker additions with Kobe Bryant and Devin Bush, which are solid, under-the-radar splash signings. On the offensive side, Case Keenum was brought back on a practical 2-year deal. Braxton Jones returns with a minimal cap hit, locked in a fierce competition at left tackle. We also saw Khalif Raymond brought into the fold for serious speed, along with Cam Lewis. Elijah Hicks was secured on a one-year deal. We cannot forget Jedrick Will stepping in to battle at left tackle, while Jordan McFadden and Jalen Jones return. And of course, James Lynch rounds out the defensive line depth. Where do the holes still remain? The top three glaring needs right now are safety, edge rusher, and defensive tackle. With recent additions, you have built a floor of depth at defensive tackle. Now, the front office desperately needs to find a dynamic player in the draft who can step in as a day-one starter or violently push the veterans. The secondary is screaming for another starting safety to line up opposite of Kobe Bryant. Elijah Hicks and Cam Lewis are elite backups, but not every-down starters. Then we have the edge rusher situation, which is terrifyingly thin behind Montez Sweat and Austin Booker. We desperately need a game-changer who can raise the overall ceiling of this pass rush. Those interior depth bodies like Kentavious Street and James Lynch are not moving the needle for the pass rush. Adding a premier pass rusher in the draft is non-negotiable. Exploring a veteran free agent edge rusher like Cameron Jordan still makes a mountain of sense. There is an undeniable trend with the 3 defensive tackles this team has signed. They are all significantly lighter, highly athletic defensive tackles. When Kentavious Street came out of college, he weighed 280 pounds. He has beefed up since then, playing closer to 300. Historically, that is the exact prototype Dennis Allen demands. He wants lighter, twitchy, explosive defensive tackles who can aggressively penetrate upfield, paired with bigger, violently physical edge rushers who dent the pocket from the outside. Kentavious Street, Neville Gallimore, and James Lynch all share that exact same athletic quickness profile. You have to keep that defensive philosophy burned into your mind as we approach the draft. Do not expect this front office to burn a premium pick on a massive, 330-pound nose tackle. They will hunt for guys who fit the scheme. That means looking early for a prospect like Peter Woods, who hovers right around that magical 300-pound mark, or targeting a sleeper later like Grayson Halton, who plays with incredible leverage at about 295 pounds. The roster is taking shape, the scheme is becoming crystal clear, and the draft cannot get here fast enough.